Welcome back to the Horses Now podcast. We have a very special edition for you. Kenny is in studio with special guests. You might be able to see him peeking his head over there. The
Big
desk
dog is in the studio.
Sonny is in the studio with us
today.
He's been
well traveled this winter. He's been rolling with me around the country.
Well, you've been well traveled.
Oh my gosh!
I mean,
he didn't go to Saudi Arabia.
Okay,
made it the fairgrounds in Oakland.
So let's talk about that a little bit, Kenny. Let's talk about where you've been here. So the last few weeks.
Well, I haven't been back in here since I think the holidays.
Yeah.
So yeah, a couple. Well, my wife, she keeps count, by the way.
I guarantee she does.
You haven't been home in 2.5 months. At least I've been productive.
I mean, that's the life of a trainer, though, right?
Yes, it is. Well, I'm a little different. Not every trainer goes through what I go through because we have the number of horses that we have. I've got teams in different places. I spent part of January at Gulfstream Park,
right,
because we were getting Thorpedo Ana, and we pointed Mystic Dan towards the Pegasus down there.
Yep.
We're going to let Sonny roam a little. He's going to roam a little bit, so I'm going to see if I can concentrate on our show here. But so I was at Gulfstream for a period. Got a small team of horses down there still.
Mm-hmm.
Then from there, I had to go to New Orleans, and we've
you spent a lot of time in New Orleans. It seems like.
a lot. We've got a little house in the French Quarter, townhouse, and the French Quarter's pretty cool place to be.
Yeah. Heck yeah, it is.
Sonny loves the dog park down there.
Well, especially when it's a Mardi Gras season, right?
Yeah, Mardi Gras is ultra intense. Got back from Saudi Arabia and fell right into Mardi Gras, which we had a kind of a low key, very very low key Mardi Gras this year. Actually, Sherry came down and she was not feeling well.
Gotcha.
And she had a little bug, so we stayed around the house mostly and had some friends that showed up. But all in all, it was quiet Mardi Gras. And made a trip to Oakland last weekend.
Yep.
For Thorpedo Ana's 4-year-old debut. That went really well.
It sounds like she didn't have much competition, right? Or she's just so much better than everybody else. It didn't look like it. It looked like Brian just was smooth ride, didn't hit her, just kind of let her do her thing.
Free Like a Girl's won 19 stake races. I mean, that's might be one of modern record.
Yeah.
I mean that's a really solid filly. Thorpedo being Thorpedo, she does her thing.
She does her thing.
Easy. So she's such a pleasure to be around. And then we trucked her back to New Orleans on Monday morning.
Okay.
And then I had a fork in the road. What direction do I go? Do I go back to New Orleans or do I head home? And I made the decision to come home. This morning I went to Daddy Donut Daughter Day.
Nice.
At St. Margaret Mary.
Nice.
St. Margaret Mary is the reason we're sitting here.
I understood.
Yeah. And so that was fun, and that was something that she wanted me to attend.
You've got to attend those, Kenny. Those things are so important.
Yeah, she was really happy that I came back.
I guarantee she was.
I've got some business. After we're done here, I've got to run to Magdalena and Keeneland, and I've got some I's to dot and T's to cross there, and it's always go. But it's all good. I've got this wonderful group of people, and we're all rowing in the same direction per se.
I've been wanting to ask you this. So obviously, I don't know how much you follow, but Louisville basketball is doing really well. Pat Kelsey, the new coach, is doing phenomenal things there, and he always talks about 25 strong. He talks about all the people that are in his program. He's like, listen, I can't do this without me. And I hear you mention that several times. Every time we're on a podcast, you mention, listen, it's my team, it's Greg, it's all these different guys that do the roles at the different spots. It seems like you have a really good team.
I don't follow Louisville basketball. I'm just kidding.
I
think Pat Kelsey's done a fantastic.
He's unbelievable.
Fantastic. Actually,
we need to get him on a show with us sometime.
For those
That'd be fun.
Don't know, I'm a UK graduate, and my wife is a U of L graduate.
Okay. And so house divided.
Yes, it can be. Some days we have interesting conversations about all that. The passing of Junior Bridgman, I'm going to.
We needed to talk about that. I was curious how well you knew him.
I didn't know him, but I had a world of respect for him.
It's hard not to.
So let's touch on that.
Yep.
That's a really sad thing. He was not that old. It makes
71.
Makes you really think. I mean, I'm 62, so
you
don't take anything for granted. But back to Louisville basketball.
Sure.
It is a team effort. There are so many cogs in the wheel, and they all have to be in the right spot. And this isn't a one-man show at all. For that matter, it's many men and women. And my job is to delegate what I want and need done, and then have people that I can count on to get those things done.
Absolutely.
Right down to being timely to work and things. There's so many details, but we write all that down. Actually, the most divisions have what we call SOPs, standard operating procedures, that dictate our expectation for someone in a position. And then if they do a good job, we leave them alone. If
now,
they don't, we address it.
Do you do anything that's unique, anything different that maybe some other trainers haven't done? Or have you taken your experience in the industry and kind of used that when you put together your SOPs?
Well, I can't tell you what the inside or the internal functions of other trainers' operations are. I have no idea.
Well, you grew up working for a few, right? In Keeneland.
Worked for Shug McGahee and realized that you needed to keep a nice, clean operation, and you needed to have structure.
Right.
But beyond him, I'm pretty well self-taught.
Okay, all right.
That I structured my business according to the way I wanted it run.
So you're doing what you think's right, and you don't really know what everybody else is doing or care for that matter.
First 7 or 10 years, 7 or 8 years, I've trained. I was a lot of eyes wide open, trying to figure out what formula would work, and then it became a matter of, okay, I had have an idea of how it needs to run.
Sure.
And then you needed to find better horses.
Sure.
So actually at this stage in my career, my focus is every day that the horses and their talent level, communicating with sometimes assistants, many times like today I've got to go in and I'm going to go through all the horses at Keeneland and all the horses at Magdalena and get my eyes on them, hands on them, try to get an idea, and then put a plan together with the people that are there. But the quality of the stock is more important in some ways than the operation. I mean, there's cases where they're very, very good horses in average trainers' hands, and very bad horses in great trainers' hands.
Yep.
So it really is relative, and when you get a good one, you've just got to hit all the details.
So we've had a lot of questions here of kind of the Kentucky Derby Trail and how to qualify. And I've got a few questions here, kind of how you get horses prepared. Before we get to that, Kenny, what's next? So obviously Thorpedo Ana just looked amazing again. I know that you've got some horses coming up for the Louisiana Derby. What's next on tap now?
Well, the next several weeks are going to be quite interesting. Saturday, we've got rendered judgment in the Virginia Derby.
Okay.
And this is a horse that's had a couple of hiccups. He had a quarter crack.
Yep.
Pretty nasty quarter crack.
Right.
We did that.
We did.
Yeah.
We did a show on that. Yep.
Yeah. And that's people that didn't see that episode really need to see it, because that was a serious issue that
I found it pretty fascinating.
Ian McKinley, what a genius.
Yeah.
I mean, I've worked. He's done a horse or two here for me before,
right?
But I was there firsthand for all that work there, and man, he did a great job. And that horse is never missed a beat hardly.
Yeah,
didn't miss a workout, and that foot's fine. But he's going to fire a shot on Saturday that we think can be, punch his ticket. But he needs to show he's faster, and I think I showed you a little wedge we put on him. He needs to jump out of the gate. These are details that you would never see most or hear.
Sure.
Anywhere else but this show, and he needs to run well, that horse, and we need pace in the race, I think, and so that's a race we're excited about. We've got one in the Oaks over there. I'm going to run a Naname in the Virginia Oaks. She's 6-1, but we're scratching the favorite, which is Gal's Delight, and we're going to run her in Fairgrounds in the Fairgrounds Oaks. So that next weekend, Fairgrounds Oaks will be maybe two colts in the Derby, which would be Hypnus. Hypnus is an Into Mischief colt, and then also Maxima Promise is an outside chance to be entered, but he's going to be entered into the Jeff Ruby at Turfway.
Okay,
That's
a big one.
Yeah, both of those two colts are in training at the fairgrounds, and they are going to get their final workouts either Friday, Saturday, or Sunday at the fairgrounds.
Okay.
So the weekend of the 22nd's filled up. Gal's Delight, with a scratch out of Virginia, runs in the Fairgrounds Oaks. She was second in the Silver Bullet Day in her last start. And then what else do we have? The weekend of the 29th is going to be interesting also, because I've got to go back to Oaklawn. We've got What Me Worry which is a Gosapper gelding.
You haven't heard of that one?
Yeah,
Okay.
He came off a nice. He's won 2 in a row.
Okay.
And he's going to run an Arkansas Derby. He'll be a bit of a price. He's got to show a next level talent to get a check there, but he's doing super. And then Decadent, who
Yep.
2 starts, 2 wins.
Yep.
She's probably going to go. Hello, Sonny. He's probably going to go, or she's probably going to go into the fantasy if all goes well.
Okay.
She's got something called a hematoma on her hip, which is kind of a rub, which is not sure how to explain that to the crew here, but some horsemen out there understand what a hematoma is. It's on her hindquarter, but that's something we've been trying to get knocked down. It's easy. She rubbed it on something. She's got a little bubble on the.
Got it.
And she's rubbed it on the back of a horse van or
a
stall. And then the weekend after that, we've got Take Charge Milady, who ran really poorly in her last race.
But you're high on that horse, though.
Well, she was at what we thought was our best Oaks chance, and more than likely she's going to head to the Ashland at Keeneland on April 4th. She was ultra impressive 2 starts back, and then she just ran a complete stinker in her last race, and we believe she displaced her palate. But I moved her from Oakland to the fairgrounds because I really wanted her in the main division down there.
Okay.
And we will monitor her. But I think right now there's a slim chance I would put her into the fantasy with Decadent, but more than likely I'm leaning towards Ashland because I think she needs better spacing.
Got it.
Yeah.
Spacing. So what's that mean by spacing?
More time in between.
Oh, I got you. She just needs more of a layoff.
Well, she came back relatively quick to come back. She went Martha Washington Honeybee, ran poorly in the Honeybee, and then now we're kind of regrouping a little bit. And even if she were to be 3rd in the Ashland, would be a big deal because it's a Grade 1.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Bluegrass Stakes this weekend, I have got 2 colts running in an allowance race at Oaklawn. If either of them win, then they would come back in the Bluegrass. Handsome Pants is one of them.
I love that name.
Yeah, and the other one's Iron Sharpens Iron.
Okay.
And both of those horses need to step up another level. They really need to show another gear to punch their ticket to the Bluegrass. But that could happen, or even come back in the Lexington Stakes.
Sure.
It's honestly, it's almost embarrassing the numbers of good horses that we have. I mean, I'm really. It's most trainers are lucky to have one of them.
Sure.
I mean, I've handpicked all these horses.
Oh, yeah.
Too. The only one I didn't buy, I think, is Hypnos.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Speaking of buying horses, so Kenny, I'm looking at bloodhorse.com, and I'm looking at kind of the points for the Kentucky Derby, the Derby Trail, as they call it. Mm-hmm. You've got 2 horses that are in the top 75. The 2 that are there are Maximum Promise and Render Judgment. The number 1 horse is a horse called Coal Battle. It's had a really, really strong career so far. It's won over $1 million. But then number 3 is Citizen Bull. And I wanted to kind of see what it took to get a horse like a Citizen Bull or a Coal Battle. So Citizen Bull costs hang on, I wrote this down somewhere. $675,000 to buy. But kind of back to the whole kind of when you buy a horse like at a yearling sale.
A contrast in approaches. Lonnie Briley.
He's got the number 1. He's got Coal Battle.
Look, that's a great story.
And that's actually a cheaper horse,
I don't really know Lonnie, but Lonnie only gave $70,000 for that horse.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, and I saw that.
And that horse is flat fast.
Well, it's got a career earnings of over $1 million. So that's got to be one of the favorites for the Derby right now, I would think.
He's getting his points. He's a handy little horse. He's kind of reminiscent of Mystic Dan, but that horse is definitely impressive.
Why is he reminiscent? Why does he remind you of Mystic Dan?
Well, he won the Southwest.
Okay.
And then he's come back and won the Rebel. We didn't win the Rebel. We actually skipped the Rebel because of the timing. But he'll come back more than likely in the Arkansas Derby, which would be huge for that horse. But he's got his points to get in. And back to Citizen Bull. That's a typical Baffert horse and the Baffert team.
Right.
And they give a lot of money for those horses, and they're looking for stallion prospects. And he's a surefire stallion prospect. And they've got a list of other ones in there.
He sure does.
Yeah, I mean, he's got there was another one that ran second recently and of course Bob's stacked. But that's typical.
Getaway Car is up there. Mark something Road, Rodriguez, Barnes Gaming. Boy, he's got a bunch.
Barnes, very well bred horse, ran second. I think I actually was fortunate enough to meet Amr Zaidan in Saudi Arabia, and that's top horse, and he'll be a stallion too. So everybody's different approach. We don't have the stallion priced horses, but at the same time, we're very fortunate. We've got a lot of good talented horses. So it isn't always what you pay.
No, that's the whole thing, and I don't know where it was, Kenny, and I saw your response. You're going to know the tweet I'm talking about, but somebody on X, Twitter, made the comment about talking about trainers and talking about how much they get out of a horse, and they were talking about, well, you can't compare Kenny because he gets them all for a much cheaper price than these other people do, and forget what the tweet was, but you responded saying thank you or something, but it's a different game. I mean, you're playing a different world.
Well, it's horsemanship. I mean, Bob Baffert's a perfect example. Bob didn't always have the big money horses. I mean, he gave $17,000 for Real Quiet, and Silver Charm was a modestly priced yield. He was under 100, I think 70, 80. But he worked his way up there, and now he's getting the higher, very well bred, very expensive horses. But it's all relative. Good horse comes from anywhere and everywhere, and the key is that put them in a program and give them a chance, and that's all we're trying to do.
So back to the two horses you have here. Both of them obviously need to do some things to earn some points. Do you like the outlook for Render Judgment, for Maximum Promise? Do both of those have a chance?
Well, I wouldn't just mention those two. We've actually got 6 or 7
that are in the mix.
Well, if they run third or better, what Churchill Downs has done is they've stacked this Derby point system where if you run really well in the last prep, then you're punching your ticket. If you run third or better in the last prep race, you're going to punch your ticket into the Derby more than likely. They want the most recency, the horses that are on the best form getting in, I think. So the 2-year-olds aren't weighted as heavily as they used to be with the graded stakes earnings. So any of a group of them, whether it's, well, I can run through the list as best I can. Render Judgment, What Me Worry at Oaklawn, First Division's a horse we haven't mentioned. He could run in there. Handsome Pants. We've got Hypnus Louisiana Derby, Maximum Promise Louisiana Derby, or the Jeff Ruby. The Bluegrass. So we've got a list of them, but they've got to run really well in that next start. And last year, Mystic Dan didn't have the points to get in at the first stage. He had to run well in the Arkansas Derby to punch his ticket.
See, that's your Derby champion. That's just unbelievable to me. And then honestly, I felt like he followed it up with a great Preakness.
Yeah, he did. He ran good in the Preakness. Caesar Gray kind of got loose on the lead that day, but and there's let's talk about him real quick. We've got to get Mystic Dan back on form. I mean, this is a horse that's still very healthy, and I think I got too ambitious with him in his first 2 starts, or last
after the Preakness.
Last start of his 3-year-old, he ran in the Malibu in California.
Right, and that was a dud.
I made a mistake there. I should have probably waited.
What was the mistake?
Probably the logistics of getting him there. There wasn't an airplane to take him. FedEx and UPS don't travel horses in December because of Christmas.
Makes sense.
Couldn't get him there, and we trucked him out, and the truck was a 2-day trip, and
a long trip.
And then he had layover in Hobbs, New Mexico, but he ran flat. And I actually, with such a long ship, I couldn't work him over the track out there either. But hindsight 2020. Then his race at Gulfstream, I thought the track kind of jammed him up a little bit. Mm-hmm. Came out of that. We've sorted that out with a little bit of time, and then taking a very conservative approach with him now. And I think like the pressure of having a Derby winner, I think maybe, like I said, I maybe would ask too much of him because I ran him grade one.
Sure.
And I really need to what I'd call step ladder him in his next race. I need to probably run him in a nice, modest listed stake, mm-hmm. even an allowance race, mm-hmm. grade 3, grade 2, and then go to grade 1.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Can you do that?
Yeah, you can. You can do whatever.
Okay.
You know, he'll go to stud next year, but in the meantime, you know, we don't want a series of bad races out of this horse beyond the last two. We want to give him a chance to show that he is good, and he's got you know, and I might even try him on the turf.
Interesting.
Because he's Northern Dancer line. He's a handy little horse. I think he'll love it, but that might even give him another I guess another asset for breeders to look at in the long run.
Now, if let's say, Kenny, the next few races he doesn't do as well as you think, does that hurt his stud fees?
He'll be retired. Yeah, I don't know that it will. I mean, I think there'll be people that will still find him an interesting horse to breed to.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Harlan's Holiday is his sire line. I trained Harlan's Holiday. Harlan's Holiday was a solid older horse, but he wasn't a great older horse.
Gotcha.
He was a better 3-year-old. He won 2 grade 1s as a 3-year-old, but as an older horse, he had some seconds, and maybe he won a grade 1 as an older, but I'm not sure he did.
Gotcha.
But he ended up being the sire of Into Mischief, who's the top of the heap as a stallion.
Right.
So we've we've got some work to do, but taking him from a racehorse to a stallion is like starting over. You have a whole nother level of competition in a different realm, and to bring a horse up as a stallion, you have to get quality mares. You've got to get numbers of mares. The stallion has to be prolific in that he reproduces himself. Harlan's Holiday did that. He stamped horses. Mystic Dan, he's going to get a fair number of mares when he goes to stud, and I think people will find that he will be a horse that enhances a mare, no matter their size or whether the big mares, little mares. I think he's going to be a good stallion when we get him there.
Now, how does that work, Kenny? Do you sell a horse like Mystic Dan to an outfit that does stud fees and that whole thing, or do you guys handle some of that in-house?
No, I don't touch that. I mean, there are people that are complete professionals,
and that's all they do.
Yeah. The stud deal on him is established, and we are excited who we're working with.
Oh, you've already got it in the works.
Yeah,
okay,
I'm not at liberty right now. I don't think I'll let the stud farm eventually.
Yeah, sure.
Put that out there, but it's a really good farm, and he's going to get a huge chance. And I think people will be real happy where he lands, and we're going to probably source a lot of mares ourselves to him to give him every chance.
That's awesome. It's interesting how this world works, because it doesn't stop, right? Just because you want to race, it keeps going, and the whole breeding aspect is highly interesting to me. Okay, so Kenny, with how the point system is in place now, has that changed your approach on getting these horses ready for races like the Derby and the Oaks?
Well, for me, it makes me a little more patient.
Okay.
I don't feel any press. You have to run well in that last prep race to really justify that you belong.
Got it.
And you don't want to come off a long layoff into the Derby. So really the way that Churchill set it up, I mean, I think initially I really liked the graded stakes approach, but I understand that you have sprinter horses that win at 2 that are going to have graded earnings that would bump horses that are more current form.
Sure. Yep.
So in other words, let's regress a little bit. Let's say a horse runs really well in the middle of its 2-year-old year, end of its 2-year-old year, and earns graded points. So the old system would have rewarded them with an entry into the Derby.
Okay.
The new system is more currency in the sense that if a horse runs well in the Louisiana Derby, Arkansas Derby, Wood Memorial,
right,
Bluegrass,
right,
Jeff Ruby, if they run well in those races, which are typically the last run before the Kentucky Derby, they're weighted to get, or their opportunity to get in is increased.
Okay.
So it's changed the dynamic of it, and actually, I think it's a good thing. I think that when a horse runs well, only thing I can say is sometimes in these races, people are throwing in maidens in big races like that, just hoping they run third so they can get into the Derby.
Kind of a wish and a prayer.
Seen a couple of those, and you don't want to clog up the field with horses that don't belong. So it's something that there's maybe there needs to be a little bit of balance, but most of those races are dictated according to earnings.
Okay.
Horses earned enough money, the leading earner gets in, and maidens would have a hard time getting in if they haven't earned any money.
All right, fascinating. What's an ideal layoff? So you said you don't want a long layoff before the Derby. What's an ideal layoff then?
I like 4 weeks.
4 weeks?
4 weeks is perfect. Some comeback races are 3 weeks. Some comeback races are 5, or preps are 3 to 5. So it really depends on the horses and the racetrack and the timing and the ownership. And,
right.
And of course, I like to run my horses. I've actually got one I'm going to talk to you about now that we're going to probably address at some point in time during the spring. Thorpedo Ana. So she wins last weekend.
Yep.
And she wins the Azeri.
Okay.
5 weeks. We come back. Her comeback. Her next race is going to be April 12th at Oaklawn.
Okay.
In the Apple Blossom.
Yep.
But
you've talked a lot about that one. You haven't won that one before, have you?
No, I've been second. I got beat by Azeri herself by an inch and with Take Charge Lady 20-something years ago.
Got it.
But the La Troyenne at Churchill comes back 3 weeks later.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a little tricky for me as a trainer. And I'm going to tell you, we're probably going to run her back in 3 weeks because I've always been a proponent to run horses. And there isn't anything else on the schedule. You either run Apple Blossom, La Troyenne, or you don't run at all until Belmont week,
right?
Which is the Ogden Phipps.
Right.
And that would be held at Saratoga, which is Saratoga at Belmont at Saratoga. So it'd actually be Belmont Day. So we're probably going to be bringing her back in 3 weeks spacing if everything goes right. And so that will be a little bit controversial. And for that matter, if they're going to beat her, they would beat her there. But it's going to depend on how hard she has to run to win the Apple Blossom if she wins the Apple Blossom. So these are the dynamics that horse trainers deal with.
It's pretty fascinating. Now you have to like her chances in any race she races, especially that Apple Blossoms. That's going to be fun to watch. And you got a lot of FaceTime on the what was the race you just won? Remind me again.
Azeri.
The Azeri, right? You were on camera quite a bit. You did a nice interview there. It was like Thorpedo Ana Day. I mean, she's such a star.
Yeah.
Have you had many horses like that before?
No, she's way up there. I mean, Swiss Skydiver had a good following. I've had some very good horses, but nothing like her. I mean, she's definitely got certain magnetism about her, and people sending me emails and seeing if they could come pet her, things like that.
Oh, I guarantee it.
Well, they argue over saddle towels and shoes, and
the
trophies. The trophies that she's aggregating are that's an interesting one too, because where do they all go? Because we've got multiple partners.
Right.
We've got 4 different partners on the horse, and I've been putting them all together and saying, okay, we got to figure out what to do. If she continues to win trophies this year, and you can't assume anything, then we may have to find some place to display them and to the public, or I hate to think you'd auction them off. But I don't know what to do with them all. She got Oaks trophies. New York trophies are always wonderful. She's got a couple from Oaklawn. I mean, let's see. Hopefully it keeps rolling.
Now, do you run a risk at some point of running her too much, Kenny? When do you pull the plug there? Because obviously she's still dominant. Do you run her as long as you can, or?
Great question. She loves to run.
Yep.
She loves to train. She loves to go to work every day. If she were a person, she would be the one that shows up first, wants to stay all day, doesn't mind anything. She never misses a meal, which is a really interesting one for a filly. I've never had a call from my night watchman send me messages all the time about how everybody eats. She never misses a meal, and that's very unusual for a filly that runs as hard as she does. So back to your question, how long do you run her? So her pedigree and her value or where she came from is going to kind of dictate that. I think that people, like, let's say we offered her to sell, and we've had plenty of great offers to sell her.
Sure.
but she's by a stallion that really hasn't produced anything else. So Fast Ana, who is a son of Medagliadoro, and actually Fast Ana's really got a great pedigree, but he didn't produce anything else, and he wasn't a signature stallion. But so people might look at a little cross-eyed, or how much would we give for a mare like that?
Right.
By a somewhat obscure stallion, although he is well-bred. And then her conformationally. So when I bought her because of the depth of her shoulder, her hip, her balance, just her overall structure, her efficiency.
Sure.
But she turns, none of these horses are perfect. But she toes in a little bit left front, and her knee is offset.
Okay.
Which is that's some would call a conformational flaw.
Right.
And then, so if you presented her to sell, people would go, will she reproduce that? Will her foals have that same?
Interesting. Yeah.
So I think our inclination is, let's race her as long as she's 100% healthy. I see her racing all year this year without any problem. She's never met a veterinarian, knock wood.
Yeah.
She doesn't need any help every day. Her bones are fantastic. And if she has a good year and she's still healthy next year, why not? I mean, Zenyatta ran through her 5-year-old
That's
year.
true. Yep.
So this is her 4-year-old year, and she doesn't seem to be wilted in any capacity. Coming out of this last race, I thought, well, she's a little lean, but lean is fast, and so you don't want a horse heavy anyway.
Sure.
So these are kind of decisions that we'll take as they come, and very, very much what I'd call champagne problems.
It is champagne, but especially with Thorpedo Ana. It's such an amazing horse that has such an awesome following. You'd be shocked. Well, obviously not you, but our listeners would be shocked at the amount of questions and things that come in on Thorpedo Ana, just because people love that horse.
You want to hit some of those?
Well, we've gone over most of them throughout the time of our podcast, but it's amazing how big of a star she is.
It's amazing.
It really is. All right. Last question here, Kenny. We're going to get you out of here so you can get to Lexington and kind of do your thing. And this came from one of our listeners. How do you keep a horse focused and calm in such a high pressure environment leading up to big races?
Well, I think that comes naturally for most horses. I mean, trainers school horses in the paddock regularly. It's not unusual to school a horse in the gate. When you do that, you're trying to emulate race situations, although it's much more difficult to do it in the morning. And really, some horses really tense up for big races. Thorpedo Ana herself was a very nervous 3-year-old filly at points in time. When we ran her in the fantasy last year, she was what I'd call washed out, and she was nervous, and she was on her toes, and she still won.
Right.
And then last Saturday, at this stage, she's kind of, this is old hat. I'm not nervous at all.
Right.
She never turned a hair this past weekend. So they learn. Some horses get worse as they get older.
Right.
And they will, what I'd call, melt down. I've had a filly that I recall years and years ago named Land of Discovery used to completely wringing wet. And you had to trick her. So you'd have to school her in the paddock so many times. So she didn't know whether she was running or not.
Interesting.
Yeah, in a horse it's highly nervous, you take them there over and over and over, and you try to emulate that they're going to the races, and then they eventually learn to calm down, or at least you hope they do.
Do big crowds play a factor in that?
I don't think horses pay much attention to the bigger crowds. I think that they get in there.
What about the noise?
No, I don't think they pay any attention to that. I think their depth of vision isn't that far. Some are more than others. I think that Thorpedo Ana's got extremely good vision, but I don't think I don't think most of the crowds bother horses, and some trainers like to put blinkers on to try to keep them focused.
Yeah, you're not big on that, are you?
No, I don't think blinkers help a good horse. I think a good horse looks another one in the eye and says,
"I'm going to beat you."
No, not today.
I love it. Well, Thorpedo Ana certainly has done that. All right, Kenny, as I always ask you, anything else before we get out of here?
I don't think so. I think we're real excited about spring racing. I've got a really significant travel schedule. We'll probably be doing some things remote after this one. I've got Virginia this weekend. I'm traveling back to New Orleans for the 29th. I've got to be the 22nd in New Orleans. The 29th, I'm in Hot Springs, Arkansas Derby weekend, fantasy. The 5th of April, I'm in Dubai for Rattle and Roll. We didn't talk about Rattle and Roll at all today.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, he's coming off a fifth place finish in the Saudi Cup. Horse made $1 million to run fifth. Is that crazy?
Pretty nuts.
Yeah.
I asked you in our last episode if that was worth it, and you're like, heck yeah. So
yeah, I mean, he only got beat a length and a half for third, and that would have been the difference in $2.5 million. So he's in Dubai, and so I'm supposed to fly to Dubai around the 1st of April.
Do you have the invitation yet?
No, we don't have the invite yet. They've had a lot of vet exams up to now, and we're waiting patiently for the invitation. Fingers crossed that happens today. It very well could happen today. And then I think I'm in Dubai from the 1st of April to the 7th of April. Then I'm back to Oaklawn. As a matter of fact, I think I'm going to fly in and out from Hot Springs or Little Rock, in and out through New York to Dubai, back into Hot Springs for the Apple Blossom on the 12th of April. And I've got this team. They're all out there knocking it out, and that gives me the ability to float wherever I need to go. And it's turned into a crazy life. My wife said, that's why I'm here, right? Because I told her, I said, well, I've got this window before Virginia, up to Virginia. And I said, I'm going to come home for the week. And really nice to be home, by the way. I only live about a mile from here.
Sure.
Been really nice to be home. And I'm home for for a whole week. And then I'm back at it for a month. And then when I think you probably see me standing foot at Keeneland or Churchill on April 14th.
Okay.
Which is
now, will you be here throughout kind of the Derby and Oaks at that point?
For sure. I'm home until July after that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think I won't leave Kentucky until after the Fasig-Tipton yearling sale.
Okay.
Yeah, and so we'll that'd be nice. So I'll get half of April, all of May, all of June, and we'll focus in on the Keeneland Churchill meets this coming April, May, and June.
Awesome, Kenny. Well, thank you. As always, if you have questions, please send them our way. We're happy to address anything that you would like for us to talk about. Give us a 5-star rating, share our podcast, and thank you for listening.
Sonny's down here on the floor just chilling out. And Sonny, come on. Up. You were good today.
He was good.
A little bit of a knucklehead, weren't you?
All right, Kenny. See you at the races.
All right, see you at the races.